Shalom. All praises, glories, and honors to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim, Wacha Kodash. Double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone, as well as men of like mind. Shalom wa chasad to the elect of the nation of Israel, whom are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and Israelite foreigners that have the appearance of the other heathen nations, but are Israelites, according to the seed line of your forefathers, whom are scattered here in America, which is Babylon the Great, and abroad. This is going to be a heavy prophetic news update to the elect of the nation of Israel. The kingdom of our Lord Yahweh Shai draweth nigh, very nigh. And we see this through prophecy, in which we see is coming to pass by measuring the times diligently in itself. And we are in a time where the kingdom of Esau, Edom, is at its conclusion. Esau, Edom is the wicked, according to the book of Malachi chapter 1 verse 4. They are the so-called Caucasian race today. They are the border of wickedness, and pursuant to the book of Psalms chapter 17 verse 13, they are the sword of the Heavenly Father Yahweh. For their blessing was and is the sword, pursuant to the book of Genesis. Now, this is from the Sputnik news app, and this important news was uploaded today at 2:06 a.m. entitled UK to leave the European Union on 31st October, Finance Minister. UK to leave the European Union, which the European Union is known as the 10 horns in the book of Revelation. On the 31st October, Finance Minister, which is a part of the beast with 7 heads, which is NATO, short for North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Okay, and we will filter this news update, this prophetic news update, by way of the scriptures, and show how this all ties in to the Holy Scriptures. It says, according to current legislation, the United Kingdom is entitled to request a 3-month Brexit. Now, Brexit stands for Britain's exit out of the EU. Extension on 19th October. If a deal is not secured that would maintain trade relations with the EU after 31st October Brexit deadline. And what is interesting is that October 31st is Samhain, also known as so-called Halloween. So this is very interesting. Anyhow, moving on. The United Kingdom will withdraw from the European Union in 31 days, regardless of whether its breakaway will be with a deal or not. UK Chancellor of the Esquire, Sajid David, said at a Tory conference on Monday. And this is the 10 toes breaking apart. You see? It says, earlier in the day, the minister issued a similar statement, speaking to ITV, adding, however, that he was hoping for a deal. And when I mentioned the 10 toes, I mentioned pursuant to the book of Daniel's, the 2nd chapter. You know, the feet of that great statue, whose feet was mixed with iron. The iron represents the pagan Roman Empire, whose empire came back in the form of NATO and the EU today. The EU is the 10 horns, you know, those 10 toes that's, you know, mixed with iron and miry clay. tongue twister, Salakia, miry clay, partly strong and partly weak. If we cannot strike a deal, I think it is important to leave in any case and leave with no deal. It is not perfect, but it is appropriate that we leave on the 31st, Javid said. At the same time, the minister refused to specify how the government intends to deliver Brexit in a no-deal scenario. The legislation that Parliament has passed, of course, has made things more difficult, but we are clear our own policy is completely unchanged. We will be leaving on the 31st, Javid said. Separately, Javid also told Sky News that he entirely trusted the Prime Minister and his word. According to the Finance Minister, it is hard to say for sure how much Brexit will cost the country. The 31st October deadline. The UK withdrawal from the EU has been postponed several times, and it has. But the word of the Lord, Yahweh, through his son Yahweh Shai, does not go out void. Esau may try to so-called upset prophecy, but it's impossible. Once the Lord said is going to happen, it will happen. Isaiah 55:11. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and prosper whereto I sent it. Roughly paraphrasing. You see? So Esau, Edom, you cannot upset prophecy, man. Your kingdom is going down. And this is the beginning, and it is the beginning of the kingdom to follow after, which that is the kingdom of Yahweh Shai, kingdom of Israel, which will be established after your downfall. Esau, Edom, your elites. Brexit is now scheduled to take over on 31st of October. Despite the previous 29 March deadline, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is currently facing strong opposition domestically over his stance to pull the United Kingdom out of the bloc by the deadline, deal or no deal. Johnson previously sought to suspend Parliament until the 14th of October in an attempt to ensure the United Kingdom's withdrawal from the European Union by the deadline. However, the UK Supreme Court ruled his move unlawful. The United Kingdom voted to leave the European Union in 2016 after former Prime Minister Theresa May failed to come up with an acceptable plan to leave the bloc by 29 of March of this year. The deadline was moved to October 31st. And this is all just wonderful news, man. The Wadi Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai prophecy is coming to pass at a more higher, faster, and quicker rate. And the Lord told us in the book of Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, that it will surely come to pass, it will not tarry. And even though it will tarry, wait for it. For it will surely come to pass, it will not tarry. Now let's go to the scriptures in the book of Daniel, the 2nd chapter, because you see all this links up to that statue, man, of gold, silver, brass, iron, and iron with miry clay, which represents today the divided kingdoms of the ancient Roman Empire, the pagan Roman Empire, which came back in the form of NATO and the EU, with America being an extension of that empire. You see, we are at the end of Esau's kingdom. This is the book of Daniel chapter 2, verse 31. Thou, O king, sawest and behold a great image. Now that great image is a statue, as you can see right here. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. And this is the dream that the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, had, who was an Assyrian, by the way. It says, this image's head was of fine gold. Now, the gold represents the Babylonian Empire, as you can see, right? His breast and his arm of silver, the silver, as you can see here, his breast and his arm of silver represents the Medo-Persian Empire, because after the Babylonian Empire was destroyed, then came the Medes, and after the Median Empire was overtaken by the Persians, it became a joint empire known as the Medo-Persian Empire, ruled by Cyrus the Great. It was also known as the Achaemenid Empire. All right. Reading on. And his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass. His belly and his thigh of brass. Now, the brass represents the Greek Empire, also known as the Grecian Empire, and the leopard represents Alexander the Great. Okay? And after Alexander came who? His 4 generals, known as the Diadochi. Seleucus, Ptolemy, Lysimachus, and Cassander. All right? And reading on. His legs of iron. And the iron represents who? The pagan Roman Empire. And his feet of iron and part of clay. You see? And now we are in the period of his feet being of iron and clay, because Rome, whose deadly wound was healed when it came back into power during the Renaissance in the form of NATO, later in the form of NATO and the EU, basically is in rulership right now, with America being an extension of that empire. That is why it's known as that iron and part of clay. All right. Thou sawest, 34, thou sawest till that a stone was cut out with our hand, which smote the image upon his feet. And that stone represents who? Yahushua. Because Yahushua is that great millstone that's going to destroy Esau, Edom's kingdom with our hand. In other words, he's going to destroy this man's kingdom by way of spiritual power. You see? That's why it tells us in the book of Isaiah, the 31st chapter, now the Egyptians are men and not God. Their horses are flesh and not spirit. See, because Esau, Edom's military might, that's his sword, his guns, his nuclear missiles. But what is his blessing will also be his destruction. It will also be used for his own demise, because the ICBM nuclear missiles are the weapons of the Lord's indignation that the Lord is going to use to utterly destroy this man's kingdom. 200 million ICBM nuclear missiles. Which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay. And you can read this in the book of Habakkuk, the 3rd chapter. 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter. You see? Daniel's the 12th chapter, the 7th chapter. Revelations, the 19th chapter. Isaiah, the 63rd chapter. Isaiah, the 66th chapter. The whole book. Ezekiel, Zephaniah, Joel, 3rd chapter, the 2nd chapter, excuse me. So many scriptures come to mind, man. Which smote the image upon his feet. Because your feet is what holds you up. So this man is on his last hurrah, so to speak. That were of iron and clay, and break them to pieces. See? Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold. And you see, the Lord is breaking these pieces up spiritually first, man, by causing these different nations of the EU to leave the EU, these different members of the EU to leave the EU, but then it's going to ultimately happen literally once the Lord returns to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. Verse 35, this then was the iron, the clay, brass, the silver, and the gold. Because you see, America is all these kingdoms in one. Ancient Babylon broken to pieces together. Because you see, all these nations are here today, man. Oh, and let's not forget Revelation's 17th chapter, Obadiah 1-7, which we're gonna get all this, man. Lord willing. Broke into pieces together and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floor, and the wind carried them away. At no place was found for them, and the stone that smote the image became a great mountain. And the stone that smote the image is Yahushua, once again. And Yahushua's kingdom is going to become a great mountain, a great government, and fill the whole earth, and it will. And it surely will, pursuant to the book of Daniel, the 7th chapter, 7 and 27. You see? Now let's jump down here in verse 41. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. And don't we see that Esau, Edom's kingdom is divided right now? And this is a great example. The UK is leaving the EU. America's allies don't even trust her anymore. And Yahushua said that a kingdom divided against a kingdom cannot stand. The kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, the Roman Empire, because Rome came back in the form of NATO and the EU, with America being an extension of that empire. Their military might is as the strength of the ancient Roman Empire. And the majority of the EU, 80% of the EU's military is American soldiers. For as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, it says, and as the toes of the feet, the EU nations, were a part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly weak and partly broken. You see? And that's what we see right now. Verse 43, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. Among all these different nations, man. But they shall not cleave one to another. They're not going to be in agreement. That's because it says their kingdom is going to be divided. It's going to be broken. Even as iron is not mixed with clay. So, we could read on in this chapter, but Lord willing, the point was made. As a matter of fact, let me read on. Verse 44. And in the days of these kings shall the power of heaven, Yahweh of heaven, set up a kingdom. Yahweh Bashim Yahushua of heaven set up a kingdom, the kingdom of Israel, which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. And Yahushua's kingdom is going to stand forever. Here's the proof. Daniel chapter 7, verse 27. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. And who are the people of the saints of the Most High? Israel. And what is the name of the Most High? Yahweh. What is the name of his son? Yahushua. Yah meaning he, and Hawah meaning exist. Yahweh. Yahushua. Yah meaning he, and Yahushua meaning delivers. He delivers. And he's going to deliver the elect of the nation of Israel. And destroy the wicked of the nation of Israel. But ultimately, Isaiah 45 and 17, all Israel shall be saved. And because they're going to come back to the loins of the elect, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all the minions shall serve and obey him. Now let's get to the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter. Because everything is all leading up to prophecy, man. Revelation chapter 17, verse 16. And the 10 horns, which is the EU, which is a part of the beast with 7 heads, which is NATO, which thou sawest upon the beast. Now the beast is the pagan Roman Empire, which came back in the form of NATO and the EU, with America being an extension of that empire. These shall hate the whore. The whore is America. That's riding upon the beast. They're going to hate the whore. And shall make her desolate and naked, expose her, destroy her with fire, with nuclear fire, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Fire from those ICBM nuclear missiles. And you can read that in the book of Joel, the 2nd chapter, and Revelation, the 9th chapter. Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 7. All the men of thy confederacy, the die represents America, Babylon the Great. All the men of America's confederacy, EU nations, NATO nations, have brought thee even to the border. To the border of where? The valley of Jehoshaphat, Yahweh Shaphat. Read that in the book of Joel, the 3rd chapter, 2nd verse. And ultimately, it's going to be the Lord that's going to be doing that. Because ultimately, Israel, the land of Israel that's being controlled by Edomites, they're going to draw America out. The least of the flock is going to draw America out. It's going to draw them out. Because you see, war is going to take place over in that land, in the Middle East. And America is going to be a guard unto the state of Israel, as Russia is going to be a guard unto Iran, Ezekiel 38. The men that were at peace with thee have brought thee even, Slakia, a little excited. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. Yeah, so they claim as though they're, at peace with you. Oh man, we all good. And prevailed against thee. Yeah, they destroyed you. They hate you. And we see that now in these times. America's ally does not like America, man. They that eat thy bread, all your economic aid, all your traffic that you do with these different nations. They have deceived thee. They have laid a wound under thee. The destruction from those missiles, there is none understanding in him. Why? Because Esau Edom's pride is so great that it supersedes his sense of looking at things logical, man, so to speak. There is no understanding in Esau Edom. His soul which is lifted up is not upright in him. So this concludes the lesson, this prophetic update. Lord's willing, it was edifying. Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, Bashim Akakadash. And I'll leave the link in the description box. Lord willing, you brothers could do, lessons or even a response video to mine and prophesy and edify the elect. So with that, Shalom. Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Akakadash, Brakatam, and Tawada Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Akakadash. Upon the Holy Spirit upon me to do this lesson. Shalom.